Well, I asked, where's the beef? Let's call this for what this is. Oh my God! They are so hopelessly woke. How dare you? That is the intellectual capital of the left today. Give me a break. You are now watching the Daily Roundup. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Daily Roundup on this, a Thursday, February the 16th, 2023. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little bit about my beloved co-host. Do you know what, folks? Today is National Kyoto Protocol Day.
That's right.
She won't be celebrating it. She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is Sheila Gunn Reid. So, Sheila, I guess I was presumptuous. Are you giving up any creature comfort on this day so that we can, to paraphrase the Prince line, party like it's 1699?
Do you remember when, God, and I don't even know what happened to him, Stéphane Dion, when he was I think he was the Liberal Party leader at the time. He named his dog Kyoto because he thought for sure that thing was going to be adopted by Canada. And it was died, and I don't know what happened to Stéphane Dion or his dog. But it's also David Menzies. It is also Fat Thursday, which I think is just a Polish extra day to eat everything in the house before Fat Tuesday, like Mardi Gras, which is like a week from now. So I don't even know what's going on. But the Polish people, they've got this right. They've got an extra day to eat everything around the house before Lent kicks in and you can't eat anything.
Well, wouldn't you know it, that would be today, Sheila, because as I said in the morning meeting, something has happened to the left side of my mouth. I'm going to a specialist tomorrow. Basically, folks, it hurts to eat. So last night, my dinner was a jar of spaghetti sauce without the spaghetti and the cheese, just the sauce. So
just
maybe on
ketchup.
Maybe on Fat Thursday, this is where I start to slim down. But seriously, I mean, I referenced that very obscure movie from 1961 by the great William Castle, Mr. Sardonicus. And if you don't want the spoiler to be told here, turn down the volume. But essentially, it ends with him thinking he can't open his mouth and he starves to death. And I think I'm going through a Mr. Sardonicus moment. I'm seeing a specialist tomorrow. My haters out there, I'm sorry to say, I can still speak even though I can't eat. But, well, better luck next time. But it is getting worse, so you might get your wish. But wow, Sheila, it's it's funny. Ezra asked me the other day, how's things going? And I said, well, at least I have my health. And the very next day, I go on this decline, right? So,
your face is falling apart. I'm melancholy because I thought the alien invasion would be a little bit more exciting than it has been. I don't know. What a mess.
I'm ready for that chest buster to just come out and be done with it, okay?
Me too.
But so, Sheila, on this Kyoto Protocol Day, and good memory about Stéphane Dion naming his dog Kyoto, and I always remember the greatest slight against Mr. Dion is that when he tried that palace coup over Stephen Harper and the Conservatives, which made Stephen Harper prorogue Parliament. I didn't even know there was such a thing until it happened. And the way the threesome were described by one observer in the media, the socialists, the separatists, and the citizen of France.
Yeah.
What a triple play.
We didn't even have a word to describe what Stéphane Dion was like in common parlance back then, but I believe the term the kids are using is super cringe. Like naming your dog Kyoto. Like, give me a break. Anyway, we should get started.
And by the way,
day.
Sheila, the most, I guess, infamous interview with Stéphane Dion. And in a way, I have sympathy with him because there's kind of something getting lost in translation. And the question was posed as a hypothetical, which, as a politician, you should never answer. And it was also set in a alternate universe because it was basically, Mr. Stéphane, if you were prime minister and you had to deal with this, And I think it might still be online. I think it was a CTV reporter. And Stephen Dion was, reduced to that soundbite you hear on the Howard Stern show of Kirk Douglas basically going, "What are you saying?" Right? He couldn't understand the question. Needless to say, not ready for the prime minister job. But yeah, good question, Sheila. Where is Stephen Dion right now?
I don't know. Probably France. Probably France, where nobody knows anything about him or what he tried to do or what he named his dog. Let's get to the business of the day, because we've got a lot to talk about, including somebody else who wants to be prime minister. But anyways, I'll save my jokes about him for later. But this is the Rebel News daily live stream. It's hosted by David Menzies most times, and a rotating cast of characters ride shotgun with him. It's me today, and we're streaming on Rumble, Odyssey, Twitter, Getter, and YouTube. All those 5 places. But if you want to support the work that we do completely willingly, because we are completely demonetized on YouTube, you can leave us a paid chat on Rumble or Odyssey. On Rumble, it's called a Rumble Rant. On Odyssey, it's called a Hyper Chat. And when those come in, and sometimes we leave them for the end of the show, but who knows, sometimes we might take them halfway through. We'll do our best to address them on the air, and it's a great way for you to support your favorite independent news company, but also take the show in your own direction.
100%.
I think that's it.
And without further ado, why don't we go right to some of the video evidence of that man who would be prime minister. It reminds me of that great movie from the 70s. I don't know what's happened to it. It was Michael Caine and Sean Connery, called The Man Who Would Be King. I believe it was based on a Kipling novel. But I would say that the odds of Jagmeet Singh becoming prime minister, well, there aren't that many zeros in a computer memory bank, let's put it that way. And to give you proof in the pudding, let's see his latest slice of lunacy that he happened to say on national TV yesterday. Take it away.
But the organizers, the central organizers, made it very clear what their goal was. Their goal was to overthrow the government. They didn't hide that. They stated it very boldly on a website. They've repeated it in numerous press conferences. They wanted to overthrow a democratically elected government with a committee of their own choosing. I mean, it was very clear what their goal was. And the fact that policing and other levels, other security forces were colluding with these folks is deeply concerning. Like, their goal was not an innocuous goal. Their goal was to overthrow government and to replace it in a fascist way without having any elections, without having elected officials. Pretty serious that security forces were still working with them despite their very clear stated goal. So that's something that I hope is addressed. And again, the ultimate failures that got us to this point, I hope, are addressed. What can be done in the future to prevent that from happening?
Yeah, and January 6, 2020, that in Washington, D.C., Sheila, that was clearly an insurrection waiting to happen, except when you look at the photo of the people going into the Capitol building, it looked like attendees trying to get into Comic-Con in San Diego. But, I mean, what is he, I'm not an NDP fan, but man, do I pine for the days of Thomas Mulcair, even Jack Layton. At least they were adults. At least they weren't, consumed. Well, to use a phrase that the left has said for so many years while the pandemic was going on, consumed with conspiracy theories. How was this going to be a takeover, Sheila, of the Parliament buildings, when you had too many people busy in hot tubs and in bouncy castles? I mean, where's the beef in terms of, if you're going to have an armed insurrection? Well, there's the first part of the equation. Where were the arms? I mean, this was a peaceful protest. And for Jagmeet Singh to say, look at the chatter online. Oh, my goodness, Sheila, if we were to take the chatter online with everything we see coming over in terms of the bark being worse than the bite, you wouldn't know what to believe. But this is preposterous. This is, once again, another indictment, I think, and I'm sorry if you're a card-carrying NDP member, Jagmeet Singh has rendered your party irrelevant. What are your thoughts, Sheila?
It's funny that we have this clip of Jagmeet Singh talking crazy, because on the Ezra Levant show today, I am speaking to Lauren Gunter, who wrote a really great article. He's a columnist with the Edmonton Sun Post Media, one of the great ones still left there. And he basically said, like, why would anybody vote for the NDP? Besides the fact that they aren't doing anything to be an opposition party, they are basically an extension of the government party right now. They are just like the socialist caucus of the Liberal Party of Canada at this point. But he's also crazy. Like, he's saying crazy things. Nobody is charged with insurrection. Nobody is charged with sedition-related crimes. They are charged with mischief and enabling mischief. And actually, if I'm reading that Democracy Fund press release correctly this morning, even the enabling mischief charges are getting tossed out of court. They were representing some people who had carried gas cans to the truckers, and they were charged, and those charges were withdrawn. Jagmeet Singh really wants the convoy to be something that it wasn't. There might have been a tiny fringe minority, to use a phrase the Prime Minister used, that may have said, yeah, we're going to overthrow the government and we're going to instate this like quasi panel of people to do it.
Yeah.
But was that any, like, sorry to interrupt, but was that a serious part of the convoy? No. And by the way, if those people wanted to overrun Ottawa, they could have 1,000 times over. These are the country's useful people. They are the man's men, the people with useful skills. The police were vastly outnumbered every step of the way. The Ottawa police remain one of the worst police forces in the country, completely inept. That's why every other level of government had to step in. If they wanted to take over Parliament Hill, they could have. They never did. They left what kind of insurrection, government overthrow, leaves the place cleaner than when they got there? Jagmeet.
And Sheila, crime actually went down in Ottawa during the so-called occupation. You know, it's getting a little tired, this act, too. At least he's simpatico with Justin Trudeau and his Liberal cohorts on this issue. But, you know, on an almost daily basis, Sheila, you have Jagmeet Singh in public at a press conference condemning the Justin Trudeau government. And then when it comes to walking the walk as opposed to talking the talk in the House of Commons, propping this government up thanks to this deal with the devil that they've got till 2025. You know, I'm really hopeful, Sheila, that I don't think, and I could be wrong, I don't think we're going to see an election this year. I think we'll probably see it next year. And I hope so, if for only one reason, it's going to screw Jagmeet Singh out of that pension. That's what the unspoken reason is for propping up this Liberal government. Look at the timeline, folks. He gets elected 2019. You need 6 years to get the full pension. 2025, bingo, Bob's your uncle. And wouldn't it be just so wonderful and wicked, Sheila, to see Justin Trudeau pull the trigger on an election just months before his pension kicks in? Because Jagmeet's counting on that. You know, those Armani suits that he wears, that BMW M3. Oh, yeah, by the way, where's the whole climate change argument when you're driving a Bimmer with over 400 horsepower using fossil fuels? Yeah, he needs the dough, and I would just love it to see him betrayed by his best bro, Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, you know, he could probably use the cash, since I think he's run the fundraising apparatus of the NDP so completely in the ground that I don't think he takes a salary as a party leader. So I think he could probably use the top up of the pension. And I'm not joking. I think that he might be taking a salary now, but for quite a long time there, he did not take a salary as a party leader, which is common practice. And by the way, the only real threat of violence that I saw coming out of the convoy, or the convoy-related activities, was when one of his buddies in the union movement threatened to throw people into a frozen river in Windsor. Do you remember that?
Yes, that would be, Sheila, David Cassidy of Local 444 Unifor in Windsor. Oh, oh, sorry, folks, not the David Cassidy of the Partridge Family who sang, or at least mouth sang, I Think I Love You. Because this Mr. Cassidy, his song is I Know I Hate You. And he was going to round up 1,000 members of Unifor, auto workers, go down to the Ambassador Bridge, beat up the folks that were protesting there, and then throw them into the Detroit River in the month of February, which, Sheila, is basically a death sentence, to tell you the truth, especially after you've been beaten up and you probably have an inability to swim to shore. There's that loving, tolerant left for you. How is this guy skating on this, Sheila? I saw a clip of our report where we went to Unifor in North Toronto, and if you're ever going up the 404, folks, they've got a brand new multi-tower swank building just down the road from where their old building is. And we discovered the only person that seemed to be employed there was a male receptionist telling everybody that all the Unifor head honchos are working at home. So if you're a Unifor member, are you happy that your tax dollars, your union dues rather, are going to propping up this ivory tower in which nobody resides in, and that you've got somebody like this vile David Cassidy in Windsor who is openly professing violence to peaceful protesters? Please, if you're a member of the union movement, especially if you're with Unifor, try to make that case that this is completely kosher.
Yeah, the good thing is what we all know about union bosses is that it's been a very, very, very long time, if ever, that they've done any physical labor. So the idea of this guy coming and tossing people into the river seems a bit far-fetched. Let's hit an ad break, though, and we should go to the things that unfolded in East Palestine, Ohio, while our guys were there, Efron Monsanto and Lincoln J. Town hall last night. And as it turns out, the train company didn't show up due to health and safety concerns. Like, you guys maybe potentially just poisoned a whole town, but yeah, no, let's worry about your health and safety. Anyway, let's hit the ad break and then we'll go to that.
I am speaking to you at a moment of grave crisis, when violent and fanatical men are attempting to destroy the unity and the freedom of Canada.
But after weeks of dangerous and unlawful activities, after weeks of people being harassed in their neighborhoods and small businesses forced to close,
as democracy flourishes in Canada,
we don't always agree, and that's okay.
Because individual liberty is cherished in Canada.
Our government will always defend freedom of expression and freedom of peaceful assembly.
It has now been demonstrated to us by a few misguided persons.
After evidence of increased ideologically motivated violent extremism activity across the country,
just how fragile a democratic society can be,
it became clear that local and provincial authorities needed more tools to restore order and keep people safe.
These are matters of the utmost gravity, and I want to tell you what the government is doing to deal with them.
The federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act.
The public's legitimate right to know why the government proclaimed an emergency and whether the actions it took were appropriate.
It is our view that there was no justification whatsoever to invoke the Emergencies Act.
It's so tough to watch. There's no reason for that. They were literally running the horses through the crowd.
The police came straight to me and he targeted me and he took his gun of tear gas and he actually shot me directly in my legs.
Was it worth invoking the Emergencies Act, ma'am, to trample on the rights and freedoms of Canadians?
Why do you think excessive honking means that the government should strip citizens away from their rights?
Our next and final witness is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Order à l'ordre.
You know, Sheila, before we get into our next subject, I wonder what Jagmeet Singh has to say about that part of the violence in Ottawa last year. I'm talking about police brutality, horses trampling over peaceful protesters, our beloved colleague Alexa Lavoie getting shot in the thigh with a cylinder. And thank God it was the thigh. I fear if it was in her head, we'd be speaking about Alexa in the past tense. That seemed to me to be the only visible, images of violence during the peaceful protest. He's very selective in his condemnation, and he condemns violence by protesters, which never happened, while he turns a blind eye, like I said, to police brutality. Let's call it for what it is. What's your take, Sheila?
Yeah, normally the NDP are against police brutality. They even are against police brutality that never ever seems to happen. But when actual police brutality happens, well, then they only care if it happens to somebody whose politics they align with. And it also just, this whole affair with Jagmeet Singh speaks to how stupid he is. And he's running his mouth about sedition and government overthrow before the Public Order Commission inquiries findings are made public. And I'm pretty sure that they are going to find no evidence of sedition. There was never any real evidence of sedition if you watch the testimony also. So you think that Jagmeet Singh would pump the brakes on his brain a little bit and just wait to see what that thing said before you started running your mouth, but that's not the kind of guy he is. I think he's proven that to us over the last little bit. I should tell everybody, though, if you want to see Trudeau on trial in person with me and Cian Simoni, the filmmaker, and the lawyers from the truckers, Keith Wilson and Eva Chipiak, in Edmonton, or just outside of Edmonton, we're hosting dinner and a movie. It's selling out very, very quickly. It's on Monday, the 20th. At Buffet Royale in Sherwood Park. They're great people. They stood up to the Chinese consulate that protested on their front door for Ezra's book signing. I loved it because their customers were just sort of stepping over the Chinese protesters to get in and have dinner and have a book signing with us. So they're a great free speech restaurant. We love to give them business, and I know you'll love the food. If you want tickets, again, tickets are limited to about 100. So if you go to trudeauontrial.com, you can get your tickets for that, but get them today, because if you sort of think and go back and forth, by the time you decide to buy the tickets, are going to be gone.
You know, we need to play that clip from a couple of years ago where funny. I think it was you and I think the big boss man, Ezra, was there as well
Ezra
for
was
a
there.
book signing. And wow, if that's a demonstration organized by the Mandarins in Beijing, maybe we really don't have much to worry about in terms of one of the aggressors of World War III, potentially. But, just before we leave off on Jagmeet, there's another character in the sordid story of what happened when the Emergencies Act was proclaimed last year, Sheila. And that, of course, is Brenda Lucki, Commissioner of the RCMP.
Yep.
And what do you make of the fact that it was just announced hours ago that despite what she said in November during the commission, that she has no intention of stepping down, guess what? A, she's stepping down, and B, she is stepping down just before the inquiry to the Emergencies Act report is unveiled. What do you make of the timing, Sheila?
I don't know. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, and I think she deserved to be fired for 1,000 different reasons other than being allowed to leave on her own terms into retirement next month, it sounds like. She said she made a personal decision. She was the first female permanent commissioner of the RCMP. There was someone who was interim before her. I think she was appointed in 2018. And since then, her leadership has been mired in scandal. She's been politically contaminated from the very beginning. She was implicated in collaborating with the Liberals to release the makes and models of the firearms used in Canada's largest mass shooting, to push Justin Trudeau's gun control agenda. And, other members of the force have testified to that. She also, during the Public Order Emergency Commission, conveniently didn't remember meetings that she was in. Yeah. And it's been such a disgrace that Alberta's Justice Minister and Solicitor General, Tyler Shandro, someone I'm not a big fan, but I think you get this right, he's asked for her to step down. He's saying, like, how do you, as the top cop, as they say in the country, how do you not remember the details of the meetings that you were in on the invocation of a never before used law on peaceful protesters in this country? How do you not remember your participation in these historic events? And she's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, 100. Sheila, I would love to say that lucky got unlucky. I mean, there's some alliteration there. Unfortunately, it's not a matter of luck. It's competence. And I think she is grotesquely incompetent, this woman. And by the way, if super producer Efren can put up that photograph, it really just caught my eye of all the medals on her tunic. Because I'm really wondering, Sheila, how she earned those medals. Like, look at that. You know what it reminds me of? Benny Hill, which I don't think you could put on TV today. There was this memorable scene where he's doing the president of Uganda, Idi Amin, and he's wearing blackface. Maybe people find that a little tasteless, but Justin Trudeau would watch. And but the point is, his entire tunic from top to bottom is covered with medals. So you can't even see the color of the uniform. And he's getting ready to go to bed, so he takes off his tunic. And his undershirt is covered with medals. And that's what that image of Brenda Lucki sprung to mind. Well, what do you think she earned all those medals for? I mean, she's basically a desk-bound paper pusher. I mean, are these equity awards and inclusivity awards and participation trophies, Sheila?
I don't know. Maybe they're one for every time she helped the Liberals further their agenda by collaborating with them and politically contaminating her office, which is supposed to be completely apolitical of the government. In fact, they have to be so apolitical that if called upon, they should be able to investigate the government. And yet she has collaborated with the government to go after people like me, to blame us for, quite frankly, RCMP failings in Nova Scotia. And I hate to think that she would be the easy fall guy for the Public Order Commission. I think maybe there are findings in the Public Order Commission that are going to speak to her ineptitude. And so she's just like, I'm retiring. I'm leaving on my own terms. I'm not sure. I just think that there are a lot of heads that need to roll. Hers should have rolled sooner for 1,000 different reasons. So I don't know. I don't know what her motivations are here.
Yeah, it'll be most interesting to see who the new commissioner is going to be. Oh, look at Blackface McGroper. He just can't wait to get
Yeah, this is what I'm saying.
Holy moly. I guess she experienced it a little differently, though, Sheila. But
I don't know. I think she experienced it the same way he did.
We should move on. As you mentioned, East Palestine. That was something on my learning curve. I look at that word, I think of Palestine, but it's Palestine. That is the correct pronunciation, evidently. And we had our lads, super producer Efren and Lincoln J, our whiz-bang version of Jimmy Olsen, go down to Ohio where the derailment is. And one of the motivations for sending Efren and Lincoln down, I should think, Sheila, is, and I can't really figure this out, this is a major train derailment. There are all kinds of reports of animals getting sick and dying. There are reports of the water table being contaminated all the way to Virginia, if you can imagine. And yet, where is the mainstream media? I would suspect this is one of these disasters where you would have the 24-hour live eye news crew. I'm old enough to remember, Sheila, in 1979, there was a very, very similar train disaster like that just outside of Toronto in Mississauga. They had to actually evacuate 250,000 people, 250,000 people. It was front page news. It was all hands on deck in terms of media coverage. But this seems to be a nothing burger for so much of the U.S. mainstream media. Sheila, given the potential ramifications, why is that?
Because it's the Biden administration. It's the Biden administration. It's the Biden EPA. Environmentalists disappear when ecological disasters happen under a Democrat's watch. It's the same reason they don't care about the wind turbines just blending up condors in California, or the acres of decommissioned solar panels just leaching chemicals into the ground. They don't care about those things because they only use environmentalism as a cudgel by which they can beat you over the head with socialism. They actually don't care about the environment whatsoever. I mean, if they did, they would live a different lifestyle. They only use the environment as a means by which to control your life. And if your life is already being controlled, as it is in California and under so many aspects of the Biden administration, then they don't need environmentalism. And so here we are. This is what comes of it. And quite frankly, the people in East Palestine, Ohio, they've noticed how the media is treating this. And basically they're saying, if you're concerned, if you don't believe the EPA that the air is safe, and if you want to tell the world that you did actually see dead fish in the river, then you're some kind of backwards hillbilly rube because you're not smart enough to believe the scientists. Well, what did we learn over the last couple of years about believing the scientists? You're only supposed to believe the scientists the government tells you to believe, and the other ones are also conspiracy theorists. So they were called out last night at this town hall where our guys were. The mayor called them out, and he said, the people want answers, and I want answers.
You know what, Sheila? I think you're onto something. I think, as you said, this is a made in America disaster. There are no Beijing boogeymen behind the curtain, much like we're led to believe about these balloons and other UFOs that are out there. So if the blame falls on the Biden administration or the EPA or any other kind of bureaucracy, the trained SEALs in the U.S. mainstream media, they're not about that. In fact, when the balloon story broke, what I found astonishing, Sheila, I think we talked about this, suddenly the narrative on so many mainstream media U.S. outlets was that, well, didn't you know 3 times Chinese balloons came over America when Donald Trump was in power? No, I didn't know. And I think if that really did happen, because I'm calling BS on that.
Yeah.
You guys would have led with that. You would have said, "Oh, look at our national sovereignty going down the toilet thanks to this inept president, Mr. Orange in the White House." So how did this suddenly erupt when balloons are coming across when Biden is in charge, if I can even use that phrase? I don't believe it from the get-go, no. But I'm sort of getting off track. The fact is, this is something that has no outside interference. We don't even know how the train derailment was caused, not yet. Maybe they'll find out. So I think that's why better to, brush this under the rug and carry on with some other distraction.
Well, and, let's be real here. Okay, so the train derailed. It derailed for a reason we don't know. Chemicals spilled and started on fire. Okay. Then they have to contain the fire and do something with these chemicals. Now, some people are saying that the only way to deal with these chemicals was a controlled burn. Even if we just concede that that is true, can we at least be straight with the people in town about what that means health-wise, what that means environmentally? Sometimes, yes. If there is a chemical spill, there's no good way to clean it up with zero environmental impact.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll concede that. But can we at least be straight with the people in town? Because what they're saying is that they're experiencing something differently. They're experiencing something very different. Now, some of it might be psychosomatic because you can't trust the media and you start to your mind might play tricks on you. But there are a lot of people saying a lot of things in that town. And If I've learned anything over the last 3 years, you just can't trust the government.
You know, Sheila, I'm not a hazardous waste expert by any means, but it would seem to me that doing a controlled burn of toxic, hazardous, flammable chemicals, is that really the only option as opposed to taking care of that material another way? I mean, it's kind of like there's a bit of a issue down at the fireworks factory. Why don't we do a controlled burn? It doesn't seem to make sense to me. But in any event, why don't we throw to the video?
Sure.
As you mentioned earlier, Sheila, there was a town hall that took place in East Palestine, Ohio, yesterday. And the mayor spoke to the media, and our lads were there. So let's check it out.
People want answers. I want answers. We're going to put everybody up here. No, Norfolk Southern didn't show up. They didn't feel it was safe. I've been outside all night. There's a long line. This isn't the way this is supposed to go. We have everybody go up in the stands. They can ask questions. We just hope everybody stays civil. If not, they'll win. I want it to be
You know, Sheila, I would say that's a public relations disaster. Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm just going to call for another video too. There's a video of the guys talking to residents outside that are waiting in line, and they are very critical of how they've been portrayed in the media. If you can find that, it's something like we're not stupid, or we're not classy people, or something like that. I think it's a clip of the guys outside, but I think it should teach the media a lesson in painting a town full of concerned, potentially poisoned people as a bunch of backwards rubes because they don't trust the government. Sorry, David, go on.
And what I was just going to say, Sheila, is that I think it's a bit of a PR disaster for none of the representatives of the rail line to be there. This reminds me of some 10 years ago. Remember the horrible Lac-Mégantic disaster in Quebec? And the way in which that company was brushing off concerns, it was absolutely appalling. I guess that's the genesis of that word, railroaded. I guess when you're in the rail business, it's quite literally their way or the highway or the railway, as the case may be. But they should be there to talk about what those cars were carrying and what the potential side effects, pollutants, what have you. And there's nobody there. They don't care. They're in their ivory towers, and this is a mess for someone else to clean up. And who knows, Sheila, maybe their lawyers have said, say nothing. It can be used against you in court, because I'm pretty sure, especially in the United States of America, where it's pretty litigious, I think we're going to see some serious civil lawsuits in the months and years ahead.
Yeah, it's pretty ironic that they complained about their safety going into this town. They're worried that the residents, I guess, might strangle them to death. But the people are concerned about their safety, and you should be there to alleviate their fears. And again, I have a really tough time believing the EPA when they say the air quality is fine. I live in a place where it's fire season every single year. And that, frankly, even though I live also near what we call Upgrader Alley here in Alberta, that's the only time our air quality is poor, is during fire season, because we have the clip of the people being critical of the media and how they're treated.
This could have happened to thousands of little communities just like ours. We are not a poor, unclassy community. We are a community that a disaster happened to, that we didn't know how to respond to it, and we're just trying to figure it out. So when you're reporting, please do not report that we're some poor community that, woes us. We just want payouts. That's not what we're trying to figure out. We just want answers.
Good for her. She's exactly right. They're being portrayed in the media that they're this poor backwards community. They don't understand science, and that they're just looking for payouts. They're looking to get wealthy now. And And good for her to call out in the kindest of ways the mainstream media right to their faces.
And I also think, Sheila, we might have a video clip of the East Palestine fire chief addressing the crowd. Didn't go well.
No.
The big question has been why the 1 mile radius. Okay, there we go.
So I don't know if you heard that clearly, but he told the crowd, because the rail company is not there to face the music, it was put on him to do it. And he said that they are offering compensation of $1,000, that's it, to people who were within a 1 mile radius of the evacuation zone of the controlled explosion. So anybody outside of that, so if you're like 1 mile and 0.2, then you don't get anything. If your groundwater is poisoned because your well is 2 miles from the blast zone, you get nothing.
This is outrageous, Sheila. Toxic fumes know no boundaries. They don't get to the 1 mile containment zone and, we can't go any further. The people on the other side of this boundary aren't entitled to $1,000 in compensation. As I mentioned, the experts in Virginia are worried about groundwater contamination. I think Virginia might be beyond the 1 mile
Pennsylvania, same thing.
Of East Palestine. So
Pennsylvania is saying the same thing, David. And again, maybe a controlled burn was the best of a bad situation. Maybe it was. I don't know. Maybe it was the very best way to do this. But even still, even if it was the best way, you still harmed these people. Even if, it was better than just leaving the chemicals to dissipate into the ground, or maybe you couldn't neutralize them. You didn't have the right chemicals to neutralize them. You didn't have booms accessible to contain it, whatever. If a controlled burn was the best way, it doesn't mean you didn't harm these people.
Yeah, well, you know what? My hearts go out to these people, Sheila. They look like such nice, typical middle America citizens.
They could be my town. It could be my town. I look at this, and we have train derailment season here where I live. And the trains are coming in and out of the refinery all the time, or the upgrader, I should say, because they're bringing condensate in and out. And then they're also, it's nothing but trains here because they're hauling fertilizer, they're hauling, oil and gas components, grain. And, we get ground heaves because it can swing like 70 degrees temperature over the course of a season, right? So, or the course of a year. So we get ground heaves and the trains do derail. But this could be my town, literally could be my community. This looks like downtown Fort Saskatchewan, or downtown Lamont, Alberta, or downtown Bruderheim. Yep. And this could happen to us. And these people just get to walk away from it all, give you $1,000 and then walk away, not even show up. Give me a break.
Yeah, it's appalling. Sheila, I should tell our audience that if you want to see our coverage,
yes,
all the reports, and I believe there's 3 more still to come.
More.
They're still in the hopper getting edited. Please go to ohioexplosion.com. That's ohioexplosion.com. And if you're able to contribute to our expenses, we travel very modestly. We had Lincoln and Efren go down there by car. And if you can chip in $1 or $3, because unlike Justin Trudeau's trained seals, we're not taking a direct deposit out of your bank accounts every 2 weeks. Kind of like, remember from, I think it was 1995 or 94, Sheila, Rogers' negative option billing. We're going to sell you a bunch of channels you don't want and never requested, and it's up to you to opt out. In fact, it's even worse with how the government funds the media in this country, Sheila, because you can't opt out. You can't say, no, give me back my money. I want nothing to do with Global and CTV and CBC and Post Media. No, shut up. You're paying. Your complaint is noted. Now move on. So again, folks, please go to ohioexplosion.com if you want to see the reports from Efren and Lincoln. And if you can make a donation, that would be greatly appreciated.
Before we move on, I should tell you the value of their work there. So they drove down from Toronto. Moment's notice. They didn't really even know what they were getting into. I was kind of concerned about them. But their work has been featured on Fox News. Their independent journalists jumped in a car, drove down just because you couldn't get the truth from the mainstream media. You can't get the truth from the government, and no one was talking to the people. They were doing a lot of talking about them, but not talking to them. They went down and actually talked to the people firsthand, and their work is being featured on Fox News. So that's the value of just being there to cover the news when nobody else is. This is their work
and
on
Sheila,
Fox News.
That's how to do it. It's, shoe leather journalism, as the saying goes. You get down there, you immerse yourself where the story is happening. You just don't, get your information from some feed on the internet that may or may not be accurate. So good on Lincoln and Efren for making that hike. And if we have to go back there, we surely will. So in the meantime, ohioexplosion.com. I think we should go to our second ad break, Sheila.
Yes.
And we'll see you guys on the other side of this ad. Thank you.
Have you checked out the fresh new swag we have at rebelnewsstore.com, like this nifty Resistance trucker sweater? We have warm, cozy sweaters, t-shirts, mugs, hats, phone cases, you name it. Everything to fit your freedom-loving needs, or maybe even trigger a liberal family member or friend. And for a limited time, you can use code TAMARA10 at checkout to save 10% off of your total order. So head on over to rebelnewsstore.com, check out all of our new designs, make some purchases, and use code TAMARA, that's TAMARA 10 at checkout for 10% off your order. Head on over, check it out.
Tamara looks great in that sweatshirt, I got to say, Sheila. Hopefully I'm not violating any kind of HR code there.
You're walking a tightrope. You're walking a careful tightrope. We got a couple of things that I want to talk about before we get to apparently a ton of chat. So thank you very much. By the way, we failed to mention that it was Rebel News' 8th birthday yesterday. From the very beginning, it has been predicted that we would never survive. And we've outlived some of our competitors. We've inspired some competitors, which I think are more like colleagues in the conservative ecosystem here in Canada. But we continue to live on, and we do it only through the support of our viewers at home. And that is evident today in your donations to the chats.
I love that picture of Ezra. I've never seen him so happy.
He looks so happy. Look at him, this birthday hat.
What kind of smile will he have when we get to our 10th anniversary and, dare I say it, our 25th anniversary?
I'll be happy if we haven't killed him by then. I look at him and I look at Efron and I'm like, we are sucking the life out of those two. Like, I feel like we have aged Efron like 15 years in the last 3. And I'm very sorry, Efron, if you're watching. Okay, let's talk about what happened at the Halton district school board meeting yesterday.
Yes. And right after that, something kind of tied in to that in your neck of the woods. There's a new policy at the City of Edmonton pools. But very quickly, at the Halton District School Board last night, they finally had a interim report of the final report, which is due on March 1st, which is, oh me, oh my, can we ask our teachers to dress appropriately? Now, they've already got a dress code for students. They've got a Halloween costume dress code, if you can imagine, which is essentially every fun and scary costume you can imagine has been banned. But surprisingly, nothing for teachers. Now, Carrie Luc Lemieux, a.k.a. Kayla Lemieux, a.k.a. Busty Lemieux, since September has been going to school with those giant fake Z-cup breasts to teach shop. He's also been involved in skydiving with Canada's foremost conservative porn star for whatever reason. I'm going to give some personal advice to Mr. Lemieux because I don't want to see any harm come to him. Now that we're shooting UFOs out of the sky, don't go skydiving. Those Zeppelins might be mistaken for something.
Talk about a weather balloon.
Yeah, 2 for the price of 1. So basically, what the Director of Education, perhaps the worst one in all of Canada, his name is Garth Innes, he, him. My sources tell me that his interim report was, we're making good progress. And there was something else he said. We're going to run by our idea of a dress code for teachers to the student councils. Why? Why would you ask students? Can you give us guidance on a dress code that you have to abide by, but the adult teachers do not? By the way, when I say sources, if you're asking, hey, Manzoid, why didn't you get your candy ass out to Burlington last night? Well, it's because I'm banned for life from the Halton District School Board. They don't like impolite questions. They don't like expressions of radical transgenderism at their school board. That's only for the kids in class to observe. Well, we'll be fighting that in court. Don't you worry, folks. I'm going to get back in there somehow. But there you have it. Sheila, and what's amazing, I discussed this the other day with Tamara. Back in November, they already went through this kabuki theater, investigating whether they could implement a dress code. And the answer was no, because it would open them up to liability. And many of Canada's top labor lawyers, including Howard Levitt, said this is balderdash. Even in a unionized environment, you can have a dress code. Of course you can. So the deal is, why, if they said no in November, if they go back to the drawing board and restudy it, why are they going to come up with a different answer? 2 things spring to mind. One is their strategy of moving Lemieux around to other schools didn't work. Because you know what? When you wear giant Z-cup breasts, people are going to notice that, especially when they're donned by someone who's obviously a biological male. That's one thing. Secondly, there's a new association, Students First Ontario, I believe it is. They've retained a lawyer. They are saying if this nonsense continues,
Some of those
see you
signs
in court.
Are funny.
Pardon me?
Look at the gone too far sign.
Beautiful. So I think that's what's moving the needle. Not any kind of, understanding that how this teacher is dressing is completely inappropriate, whether he is a biological male or female, but the fact that there's all kinds of pressure and that their grandiose plan of moving him around the region like he was a substitute teacher, good golly, Miss Molly, it didn't work. Sheila, this board is appalling. And I think Curtis Ennis, him, should resign. You were a joke, sir.
Yeah. They're there to protect the students. The teachers already have a union. Let the union fight for him. The school board is supposed to represent the students and the parents, the public. That's whose best interests they're supposed to work in. They're supposed to serve as a counterbalance against the powerful teachers' unions. But that's not what they're doing here. They're capitulating to it.
And Sheila, I almost forgot. one of the people that were at the school board meeting last night was, I think his or her name was Julia. Needless to say, this was a member of the trans community who spoke out in favor of the parents.
Good.
That this
Thank you.
is inappropriate. And as I've always said, Sheila, you notice how the trans community has been dead silent on this issue. In fact, I've seen social media chatter of people stating that they are trans and condemning Lemieux for setting back the trans agenda 20 years.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because they know this is not a genuine male to female transition. Of course it's not. But this school board, merely to investigate, merely to ask impolite questions of what the real motive is, which I think this is either a prankster at play or it's a sexual pervert. They are so terrified, Sheila, of being branded as transphobes, they will not do their due diligence. Shame on the Halton District School Board.
Yeah, and it's kids. It's kids being hurt. You know, like the one thing that I think we should all be able to agree on is speak up for the safety of kids. But the people in charge of the safety of your kids are not speaking up for the safety of your kids. Yeah. So, I mean, I see why people homeschool. A couple of things that we want to get to. We want to get to, I'll just briefly touch on it, and that is the committee that is examining the eligibility for medical assistance in dying is looking to extend eligibility to mature minors. And what are mature minors? Whatever the government says, as long as the kid agrees with the government. We've seen that when they say mature minors can decide what gender they are and can consent to medical treatment. If it means hysterectomies and mastectomies, then that's fine. But your kid also simultaneously cannot be old enough to vote or drive. And so now mature minors can be qualified for medical assistance in dying. And the whole reason the committee was convened was because public outcry caused them to pump the brakes on expanding medical assistance in dying eligibility to cover the mentally ill. I mean, why do we even have suicide hotlines at this point? You should just be able to have like a dial-a-cyanide or whatever. But anyways, public outcry said, like, this is crazy. What are you doing? So they pumped the brakes on it. Now they didn't say we're not doing that. They just said, okay, we're just going to re-examine the eligibility. So when they start, as Liberals tend to do, started re-examining the eligibility, they said, you know what we should totally do? Expand the eligibility again. And that's the whole problem with this, is back in 2016, people like me said, this is a slippery slope. And pretty soon we're just going to be euthanizing all the inconvenient and sad. And here we are.
You know, Sheila, have you ever heard that term before that report, mature minors?
Yes. You know where I heard it? Most recently is kids whose parents were saying, I'm not sure you should get the COVID vaccine. Let's just wait and see. You're a young, healthy person. And so I don't think you really need this. But kids who are susceptible to peer pressure and fear and other people around them, like teachers, they were able to get the vaccine without their parents' consent as long as they were deemed to be a mature minor by an adult healthcare professional who met them 30 seconds prior.
And what are the benchmarks, Sheila, for a minor passing the maturity test?
Does the person want to proceed with the medical procedure that you're asking for based on politics? Then, yeah, you're a mature minor. That's been as best as I can tell. It's basically like, do you understand what you're doing? Do you understand the consequences? If yes, like if you understand the risks, if yes, then you can do this thing. However, I don't think often the risks are properly communicated, and also a person's brain is not developed fully until they're 25. So I don't think you should be asking a 12-year-old if you're okay with suicide.
And you know, Sheila, what if you've caught that person at a very low ebb?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's why veterans are so outraged at the fact that they were offering it to veterans who are calling Veterans Affairs in extreme distress. what we know about PTSD is that it ebbs and flows. It can come in a wave and then disappear as quickly as it came. And if you got on the horn with Veterans Affairs when you were in an acute episode that was going to ebb and flow, if you got one of those angels of death on the other end of the line, what became of you?
Wow. Unbelievable. I mean, I think back to that year in my life when I was in grade 8 in Newfoundland, and I was the only, it was a term I never heard before, much like mature minor. I was the only mainlander in the school. Oh. And oh my God, I think if there was some counselor saying, you want to just, just go for the long needle, I probably would have said yes, but thank goodness, but I'm making the point, I guess, in a hopefully comedic way, that we all have these, downsides, and hopefully we rebound. And to query a minor when that person might be experiencing depression for whatever reason, and that's the litmus test to end one's life, that's appalling, Sheila. And before we move on, as I teased earlier, evidently when you go, Sheila Gunn Reid, to a City of Edmonton pool come summertime, you don't have to worry about the top part of your bikini. You're allowed to go in completely topless as a woman or someone who identifies as a woman. This brings to mind, I'm surprised it's in the news in Edmonton out there, because certainly for the province of Ontario, I don't know about other provinces, but going back to 1995, I remember it well, the Gwen Jacob decision. Gwen Jacob was a woman in Guelph, Ontario, who on a really hot and humid day decided that, like the guys walking down the sidewalk, she was going to doff her top and go topless as well. She got a ticket from law enforcement or bylaw, went to Ontario Superior Court, and she won. The judge said, yeah, you know what? There's really no difference. You have the right to go topless. I have to say, that's 1995, a good 30 years ago, Sheila. And it's kind of funny, since the Gwen Jacob decision, I have only seen one woman without her top in Ontario. I remember it well. She was outside the Taco Bell at Yonge and College Street, panhandling. And it was basically
it's a marketing ploy. Yeah, I get it.
Basically a way to gin up the donations. And what was surreal about it was her boyfriend, who was about 12 meters away next to the mailbox, looking intensely angry at anyone staring at the chest of his girlfriend. It was absolutely surreal. But the point is, I've only seen one. So do you see this catching on? My prediction is all the biological women in Edmonton this summer are going to keep their tops on, and it's only the biological males identifying as females that are going to be topless. So in other words, business as usual.
Or the biological females who identify as trans men. We might have some of that. But I want to know what kind of psycho weirdo you have to be to go to a public pool full of children and think that it is appropriate or decent or not absolutely lewd and lascivious to be parading around topless in front of 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old boys and girls. Yep. You're a psycho. You're a creep. In the before times, you would be arrested for lewd behavior in front of minors. But this is a city policy now because of gender expression. Apparently, it's been a policy for the better part of a year. Were the pools even open last year? I don't know. It's Edmonton, so God only knows. And I don't go to public pools anyway, because I just don't like to sit in a tepid pool of other people's chlorinated filth. However, apparently it's been in place since June 2022, but it was not a widely advertised change. So what the city is doing, I guess, is advertising it to all the weirdos of the capital city. So anyways, if I could get a quote on how much it would cost to build a wall around Edmonton, that would be great.
Well, Sheila, here's what I have to say. Not that I'm hoping for it, but with these progressives at City Hall, and they're all about gender expression, and that means, you can doff your top. Well, in for a penny, in for a pound. Why have any kind of apparel standards? Why not make this a nude pool? What if I'm a member of the trans community and my gender expression means I swim in the nude. Aren't you going to accommodate for that? How would they answer that, Sheila?
Maybe you're the pantsless root bear from A&W. Who knows? We can be anything now. Someone's going to drown in a furry suit in one of the Edmonton city pools. That's where this ends, I think, is when someone dressed like a blue wolf drowns in a pool. Because that's their gender expression. There's no other way out of this. This is the end result. And maybe a few dead furries and things will change. Okay, Olivia keeps desperately whispering in my ear. And I'm very sorry, Olivia. I'm trying to keep things on track, but we are already 6 minutes over. She said there's a ton of chats today to get to. So let's get to some of those. I think the first one is Medic Deb. Gives us $50. Thank you for the truth. Well, Medic Deb, I hope you're still watching. Thank you so much. Okay, let's keep going.
And what was the message, Sheila? I didn't hear the message.
She said, thank you for the truth.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you
from
for the donation. Thank you.
There's one more from Medic Deb. She says, love you, Dave.
Oh, thank you, Medic Deb. That's so nice. $60. Wow, we're off.
Yeah.
We're on a good footing here. Thank you.
Hang on, there's more. More from Medic Deb. Medic Deb, I hope somebody didn't steal your credit card. Anyway, she gives us $10 and says, I left Canada in 1984. Isn't that ironic? Due to Trudeau Sr., now I'm back dealing with his bastard son. We're all in this together. Medic Deb.
Wow.
Wait, there's more. Medic Deb, $20. Medic Deb. Since spring breakup, you're spending a little bit of winter cash, Medic Deb. Gives us $20. I cannot be there. Love from me. Oh, thanks so much. Oh, wow. You can't be at our event.
Thank you so much for your generosity. I think we're up to $80 with just one person. Medic Deb.
I think we're at
100.
We might be at 100. Maybe? I don't know. I'll let somebody else add it up. Let's keep going. Formal Tux gives us $10. Would like to mention to Rebel the biggest medical secret in history. And then they send us a link and say, please check it out. Okay, we definitely will. Let's keep going. Medic Deb, $2. Ha ha ha, Benny Hill. That was one of my dad's favorite shows. The little music at the beginning where he's running around in double speed, pinching everybody's bum. The beginning of the Benny Hill show. You remember that, David. I can't be. Yeah. Okay, good. Because I feel old remembering it.
Well, people of our age, Sheila, you know.
Yeah. No, not our age. You're generational.
Uh-oh, pronoun problems.
I think we're like 1.5 generations apart. Or maybe it's 0.5. I don't know. Court Mocker gives us $20. Well, thank you so much. Vernon, BC judge June Cartwright resigned 2 months after I disseminated an unanswered letter to MP Mel Arnold describing the corruption in the court in Okanagan Valley. And then we've got a link there to Court Mocker's videos. Let's keep going.
That is, Fraser, of course, McBurney. Andrea's territory, Sheila.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Fraser McBurney, fight the fines recidivist, lover of caps lock, Hamilton, freedom lover. Gives us $5. Trudeau does it again. He's taking credit for downing a weather balloon, one of the hundreds loosed by the weather department. What a jerk. But yeah, it's he ordered the American I think it was F-22s, he said, to shoot it down. And then you listen to you read the readout of what actually happened with the White House, and they ordered it.
I think his next move, Sheila, is to bomb the Rideau Canal to get rid of unsafe ice, to keep those swimmers off it once and for all.
I forget. See, I was like, is it aliens? Is it not aliens? Would they tell us if it's aliens? Would they vehemently deny if it's aliens? And now I'm convinced it's aliens because the White House press secretary said, no, they're weather balloons. They could be, what did they say? I think they said something like, it could be used car lot balloons. At 40,000. Like, what kind of balloons, by the way? What kind of balloons from the used car lot went up there? Like helium balloons, or like the guy with his wiggly arms? Is that guy up there? I would love to see that. And you want me to believe that fighter jet pilots can't tell the difference between a tic-tac shaped UFO and the wiggling arms guy from the car lot. Am I to believe that our best and brightest don't know the difference? Fascinating.
You know, Sheila, if any car dealers are watching, can you inform us, can you educate us, when you put up that inflatable King Kong or Godzilla balloon on the roof of your dealership, do passersby go, oh my God, I've got to make a U-turn. I need to buy a Nissan Rogue.
Or is that a UFO? Like, no, she was like, she was mocking. She was like, it's definitely not it's not extraterrestrials. And that's when I was like, it's 100% extraterrestrials now. 100%.
Sheila, how do you think you'd do as a used car saleswoman?
I don't know. You know, I could get me started on this, but my husband is like a bargain shopper when it comes to vehicles, and auction shopper.
Oh yeah.
And I just don't have it in me to badmouth somebody's stuff right to their face so that they come down in price, like tell them what a piece of garbage you're trying to sell me. He does that. And I'm like, what has gotten in? Like, he's such a nice, calm man, but if he's trying to buy something from you, it's I don't know what gets into him. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh, Sheila, when we have more time, I will tell you about my first and last garage sale I ever did. And the idea of dickering over an item that was $1 was just so traumatic for me. I threw in the towel forever.
My mother-in-law, look, I love going to garage sales, and I'll bargain, but I can't deal with garage sale people coming to my house the way that she can. She'll run like 3 garage sales out of my garage in a year. But I just don't have the patience to like have somebody offer you like 25% of whatever your stuff was. Like, get off my property. I'll haul it to the dump myself before I sell it to you for less, kind of thing.
And Sheila, that was the other problem. We put in an ad in the local newspaper and we said the sale starts at 10 a.m. And you early birds that rang my doorbell at 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday. Oh, yeah. They're so sure we're going to have, I don't know, Chanel products or priceless comic books that we're going to put out there. They have to be first. You people, I don't want to say what I want to say.
People show up and I have to hide everything in my yard. Because they show up and they're like, how much for that pickup? How much for the grain truck? How much for your quad? I'm like, none of that stuff is for sale. How much for the welder? I'm like, it's not for sale. It doesn't have a sticker on. It's not in the garage. Get out of my Quonset. What are you doing over there? Like, there's just people wandering around like lemmings all over the place. I just go in the basement and work. I'm like, Linda, it's your thing. I have no part of this. Keep all the money. Okay, let's keep going. Laird Kintyre, gives us $5. I'm a conservative trans woman. I said this in a Rebel live chat yesterday and was insulted and verbally attacked by Rebel viewers. Is this how conservatives treat their own when we don't fit the narrative? I don't know.
No,
I think I'm one of those people like, you want to live your life? Great. I don't care. You don't care. Don't make me care. And a government that wants us to care is far too big. That's where I'm at on this. And don't do anything near kids.
I echo everything Sheila just said, Laird. I think you might be a little thin-skinned. My position, if you want to go on pretending that every day is Halloween and you're a man dressing as a woman or a woman dressing as a man, who am I to judge? If you want to go out and live your life that way, you fill your boots. But as Sheila said, bringing some kind of radical transgender agenda, especially to our children, this popularization of drag queen story time, which, by the way, Sheila, this just in, I understand it's simply now drag story time, because you see, to say it's a queen, what if the queen thinks she's a king? You see the complications here? And also,
there's drag kings.
Pardon me? Yeah, drag kings. But then again,
kings.
then we have to worry about imperialism, colonialism. So the thing is, I don't know where you're getting at here, sir. I'm not anti-trans. You want to be that way and live your life that way, go for it. But just don't, bring it to minors, as Sheila said, and try to popularize this. There you go. I don't know what else you want from me.
David, someone who's dressed up as a woman as much as you have in the course of your work here at Rebel News and prior to that at Sun News Network could not possibly be intolerant of the trans movement.
Well, actually, I'm now in awe of biological women. Guys, we don't really give women their due. All the things they do for us, high-heeled shoes, push-up bras. Are girdles still a thing? All the makeup that has,
Not really.
I mean, it is it's pretty tough existence. And I mean, when I was wearing those Z-cut breasts imitating Busty Lemieux, oh my God, Sheila, how do you women do it? I had a backache every time I put those 36-pound boulders on me, right?
It is not a concern of mine. It's not a thing. Like all the things you just listed, I'm like, no, I'm not fitting in none of those things.
Well, if you were a city girl, it would be a thing. I'll tell you that much.
I'm wearing some very practical farm shoes right now. Fraser McBurney also says, he gives us $5 and he says he'd like to thank the hard work of Jenna and Kristen. Those are paralegals with Fight the Fines for helping me fight the fines. We had one ticket dropped and the fine lowered from $1,900 to $200 to two at $200. Thank you, Rebel. Jenna's great. And I don't know Kristen as well as I know Jenna, but those girls are just working so hard. They really are true believers in what they do at Fight the Fines. They believe in the rights of citizens to live their lives unmolested by the state. And I'm so happy that you had a happy outcome of your Fight the Fines tickets.
They're so smart, those ladies.
They are. And organized. I remember when Ezra launched Fight the Fines, and then was like, it was like he dropped an atom bomb and then just walked away. And I'm like, holy hell. Because I was on the other end of the Fight the Fines emails and we didn't even have like lawyers or paralegals or anything in place. I'm like, how do I organize this? How do I intake all these people? And I did my best, but they just kept coming. And then Jenna came along and some of the other early helpers that Fight the Fines. And thank God, because it was just an enormous task. He said, we're going to take 1,000 of these. And then they came. And just intaking those people, but let alone organizing their cases and their court dates and evidence and all of that. I mean, and connecting people with lawyers. I'm just incredible work.
100%.
And the Democracy Fund. Kenzie, 67. I guess $5 for Lincoln and Efron. Stay safe, boys. You guys are doing a great job for us. They definitely are. And you know what? Efron's back in the office today. I think Lincoln's back in the office today. They didn't stop working. They just jumped in their car, left, did as much work as they could. They attended the town hall, didn't know what they were getting into, came back, and they're full work day in the office today. So just really unsung heroes at the company. There's a lot of them, though. There's a lot of them. Olivia, you're one for putting up with me and David 4 days a week together. Lemon B, $5. I just don't understand why Busty isn't fired for ignoring shop rules alone. There's clear evidence he's not displaying proper safety whilst teaching his students for all to see. Yeah, that is my thing. Is like, how are those things safe? Like, and the wig like hanging down over his face. My daughter is in shop class.
Yep.
She's very good, and she's got very, 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 very long hair. In fact, people think she's like one of those Protestant modesty girls. She's just not. I mean, she's modest, but that's not why she has long hair, and she has to have it like pigtail braided, and then she tucks it down the back of her shirt to make sure it doesn't get out. She can't have long, loose sleeves. It's going to be short sleeves. But this guy has these Z cups and a wig hanging in his eyes while he's running the bandsaw. Hardly seems safe to me.
And long sleeves and jewelry. And, Sheila and Lemon B, and thank you for your donation. I've always said, Sheila, forget about the Ministry of Education. Where the hell is the Ministry of Labor on this file? Every shop etiquette rule is being violated. And even worse, the kids take shop as a joke now. There's no respect for this teacher. We have a photo of a child in his class sitting right next to him, vaping. It's kind of like it's the Wild West. Do whatever you want. And
why not? I mean, the teacher is.
So Sheila, is in this day and age to enforce safety rules in a workshop, is that transphobic too if the teacher is pretending to be trans or is trans? I mean, is that what it is? I don't have anything else.
Trans trumps everything. That's what we've learned, right? Trumps everything, even just general safety rules. The bandsaw cannot rip your wig off if you're trans. That's what we've learned.
Yeah. You know, there's that hilarious Family Guy clip. You can Google it. And it's a bar, and there's a woman, or we think it's a woman, and the bartender says to her, she's got her cell phone out, I'm sorry, ma'am, you cannot watch pornography at the bar. And she says, oh, but I'm trans. I think we have the... our producers are so quick. Can we just show that? It's like an 8-second long clip. It's much better than me telling it. Check it out. This tells you everything you need to know.
Excuse me, ma'am. No porn at the bar.
Oh, it's okay. I'm transgender.
Oh, I had no idea. Do whatever you want all the time.
All the time.
You know, inside I'm crying. But Sheila, isn't that just so true?
Yeah, it's like when that guy who looked like Macho Man won all the girls' events on South Park.
South Park, yeah.
This is literally what it's like. By the way, a lot of news coming out about Leah Thomas or Liar Thomas. I forget which conservative network brought it out, but just wander around in that territory for a while if you get a chance today, friends. Just the latest news on Leah Thomas. Those poor girls that were exposed to him and were literally exposed to him in the change room. Yeah. Anyways, let's keep going. Medic Deb again with $10. Money well spent. Love you. Well, thanks, Deb. Gosh, very generous. And another one from Medic Deb, $20. She says, love to my best friend in Akron, Ohio. Becca, don't drink the water. You know, I said the same thing to Lincoln and Efron on their way down. I was like, guys, just make me feel better. Please bring your own bottled water before you get there.
100%. And thank you again for those donations. Did you win the lottery or something?
Yeah.
If so, keep donating.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We've got another one from Medic Deb. She gives us $2. Must be CBC asking questions. Medic Deb, $10. Please do not give them airtime. Okay. And then Leard Kintyre gives us $5 and says, David, I don't agree with drag, story hour, trans and women's sports, etc. But if you don't accept me for what I am, I guess that makes me a second-class citizen to you.
But I don't understand that. I'm not condemning, I'm not condemning you. I'm not advocating violence against you. I said if you want to live your life that way, I mean, listen, if you want to dress up as the Wolfman or the Frankenstein monster or Dracula and live in the suburbs and go about your own life, who am I to judge? Do
like
whatever
the Munsters.
You want. We
You just described
freedom.
the Munsters, David.
What's that?
David, you just literally described the Munsters.
Yeah, pretty much. 1313 Mockingbird Lane. Live and let live. As long as you and your lifestyle doesn't affect me, who am I to tell you how to look, how to dress, how to identify as? So I don't understand where.
Also, I don't understand this idea of acceptance. I don't need you to accept me. I don't. I'm going to live my life however I see fit. And I don't care if you accept me. I really don't. I don't have to approve of what you're doing, which is what you're asking me to do. I need you to leave me alone, and I'm going to leave you alone. That's all. That's what you do in a civilized society. You don't demand other people approve of what you're doing. I think that's where we're exchanging the word tolerance for approval, and that's not how it's supposed to be.
You know what, Sheila? That's well said, and I've always spoken about this. The LGBT community for decades has always about tolerance and acceptance. Okay, you got it. But when you ask for affirmation, when you ask for me to stand on an apple box and give you a standing ovation, no, it's just not what I want to do. It's just not my thing. So I am tolerating you. But the idea of affirmation, well, that is a bridge too far, I'm afraid.
I don't understand. I don't need anybody to accept me. I really don't. Like my friends, my family, the people I love and who love me. Yes, I care what they think. But everybody else, I don't need their permission to live my life. I don't. I just don't. Or their approval or their affirmation. We've got one more from Medic Deb, $5. Sorry, day off. Well, you know what? I hope you spend your next day off with us too, Deb. Thank you. I think we're all caught up. And if that's the case, I got a little bit of work to do before I get out the door because I have to get to Calgary because it is the world premiere of Trudeau on Trial tonight at Canyon Meadows Cinemas. Unfortunately, it's completely sold out. But the good news is if you are in the Edmonton area over the course of the next couple of weeks, we have 2 showings there. And the most recent one is coming up on February 20th. And you can get tickets to that at trudeauontrial.com. And please, if you are getting tickets, once we're done here, go straight to trudeauontrial.com, get your tickets because they'll be gone if you want them later.
Well, Sheila, happy trails down to Cowtown. Do they still call it Cowtown, Calgary? You know, that's Toronto's nickname, Hogtown.
Yeah, I mean,
no,
I don't know. People say it when they write about Calgary, but I don't actually know anybody who actually calls it Cowtown.
Well, these days, according to the kids, Toronto's nickname, it's not Hogtown anymore. It's the 6 because evidently 6 is part of our area code. Oh, what a creative nickname. But anyways, happy trails to you, Sheila. Thank you to Olivia and Efron behind the boards. Thank you to everyone who donated, especially Deb, who was so generous today. We really, really appreciate it. Hopefully, I will be back in this chair tomorrow, depending on what my dental surgeon has to say. In the meantime, as always, folks, stay safe and stay sane.
Well, if a lefty mayor gets in there, God help the people of Toronto. We saw it before when Rob was there. Taxes going through the roof, out of control spending, worrying about, lining the pockets of City Hall's coffers. We have a different philosophy. Our philosophy is put money back into the taxpayers' pockets, reinvest into companies, and that's how you have a thriving economy. But folks, I'll tell you, if a left-wing mayor gets in there, we're toast. I'll tell you, it'd be a disaster in my opinion. And so I believe Mayor Tory's done a great job on economic development, making sure we build great transit systems and keeping taxes as low as he can at the rate of inflation.